We all know somebody, and maybe it's even ourselves, where we try everything to change our circumstances, our situations, yet we feel like we're just completely stuck. I mean, if you look around, most people never actually change. And the truth behind the reason why is actually scary because there's a built in mechanism inside of you that is rejecting this change at all costs. And it doesn't matter how low your life is going, how depressed you may be, how poor you may be, how long you've been working at breaking your plateau for. It doesn't matter. There's a secret part inside of you that does not want change, and it's going to fight to its death to make sure you do not change. And today, guys, is exactly what I'm going to show you here today, and exactly why you cannot seem to break through, why you cannot seem to change, and how to actually do it the right way. Now, my name is Kate. I'm a transformational coach. I've coached over 500 clients to permanently transform themselves. I'm also the founder of Beyond Identity, where we help high achievers and entrepreneurs build their dreams, accomplish their next level goals by changing who they are as a person, their identity. So let's dive into today's training. If you do like this, make sure you like and subscribe. So we're in an age of information right now where you have AI, you have the books, you have all the meditations, the YouTube trainings, you have all the information you need access to actually change your life. But why are things still not changing? Well, the reason why is because change is unfamiliar. Change is not certain. And the mind, the brain, how you are as an animal, you do not want that. You crave more so the familiar, what is most safe, what is most predictable. Your brain is literally a prediction machine. So this is why usually when people are ready to go on the hero's journey, now the hero's journey is where you go on that uncertainty journey to change your life. It's in every movie that has a superhero in it where they go through that dark pit, they go through the lows, and they come out and they rise on top. Usually the problem is that most people have to wait until their pain meter in life reaches 100. What I mean by that is the famous quote of, when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of change, that's when people actually change. I've seen this throughout the years, sadly. When I built my first business, a weight loss coaching company, there would be people who've had multiple strokes who were going to probably pass away soon if they did not get their health on track. Yet they could not commit. They could not do it because they're so stuck in their old own way. So the problem is that most people wait. We wait and we wait and we wait and we wait until the fire's too hot, and then we go to try to change our lives. And the problem with that is that when you're in that dark, dark time, when you're in those low, low lows, your nervous system is in fight or flight. Your nervous system is in completely fight or flight, and what you actually want is instant relief. So the problem is that, let's say you are here when we look at the map of consciousness developed by David R. Hawkins. When you look at the map of consciousness, so this is basically your most, think of it like as your most dominant emotional state, and that influences your overall mental well-being and how you interact with your own personal reality, right? So if you're coming from a dominant emotional state of like complete shame, shame on you, shame on the world, shame on all things, that is going to be quite miserable feeling, right? The way we interact with life, and even if we accomplish things, we're always going to feel that shame, that miserable feeling. So most of the time when you want to change your life, you're going to be in that low, low period, and it's going to be the survival paradigm. But you want to be up here where it's like, okay, I'm experiencing peace in my life. I'm experiencing joy, love. Like I want to get those good feelings. And that's one of the biggest problems that we have as people, is that we try to go 0 to 100. And that's why drugs can be so popular, because they instantly give you relief. They instantly give you relief. And that's one thing that you're going to be searching for when you're in this bad pain, is that you just literally want certainty that things are going to be okay. But the problem is that when you are changing your ways and who you are and how you are, there isn't going to be that old familiarity. There isn't going to be that old certainty. And a lot of people have a hard time with that, because it's like, well, if I don't have control over this, a lot of time we're growing up to not trust in just the natural flow of life and just to trust in the natural building of things. We need some sort of control or certainty. And this is why we can grip onto a lot of things and can be quite toxic as we're in a low period in our lives, as we're going through the lows and the lows and struggling. That's very, very common to do that. And this is why people have a hard time with that change. So we would actually pick a familiar hell over an unfamiliar heaven. So when in fight or flight, what happens as well is that creative thought shuts down. So not only do you reject change at all costs because you literally just want instant relief, but literally your mind shuts away new creative ideas, new possibilities. Your mind will literally just shut down in a way. Like you're already full of these negative thoughts and your mind's racing 1,000 miles per second. So you can have all the information outside of you to change your life, but you can't absorb it because your mind is not in that right state. Okay. Same with healing. Your literal healing in your body will actually stop. And then our brain, it's hyper focused on safety. And what is safety? It's what's most familiar. It is just wanting what is most familiar, what is most certain, which leads us back to the same old stuff. And we stay stuck over and over and over again. And it just becomes more and more heavier, more and more rattled. So here's an example. Let's say someone is depressed. Okay. So they're going through a situation or they're just in a period in their life where they're absolutely depressed. And we'll say that's kind of their most dominant emotional state is I simply just feel sad. I'm upset all the time. That is my status. I'm depressed. And let's say they start doing the thing. So they start to change their actions. So they start to work on self-care, affirmations. Maybe they start the gym. Maybe they start to read. Now, these actions then lead them to feeling just a little bit better. They start to just feel a little bit better, feel like maybe their day is getting a little bit more brighter. They're starting to maybe drag themselves out a little bit. And the problem is, though, is that that's an identity mismatch. What I mean by that is that now your actions are no longer in alignment with who you believe you are. So when I say state, think of that as your identity, because your identity is created through your most dominant, consistent thought and emotion. So your overall emotional state comes from your identity. So identity mismatch is when who you believe you are and how you're acting is no longer in the same way. So if you believe you're depressed, if you believe you're broken, there's something wrong with you, but you're acting like a person who takes care of themselves, works on themselves, you're acting a different way than that, that's an identity mismatch. This is where your ego jumps in. Okay, ego is protector of identity. So this is where like you're trying to change your life, but then the ego will whisper thoughts into your mind of like, I'm not feeling any better. Change isn't happening quick enough. I barely feel any better after all this work. Nothing is working out. I'm broken. I've tried this 1,000 times and it never works. You're going to have all these negative thoughts that are going to sound so real to you. They're going to sound so logical to you. And this is exactly how the ego works. And then what happens though is that you buy into the thoughts. You buy into the thoughts. Now, one thing you should know is that these thoughts that you are having, like around the idea that you can't change, that are disempowering you, that are putting you down, that you're not good enough, that you are broken, all these things, right? They're meaningless. What I mean by that is that they're not true. They're not the full truth of the capital T. They're literally just thoughts that are coming into your awareness. The problem is, though, is that we instantly identify with those thoughts. We personalize those thoughts as if they are real, and then we experience that same cycle over and over and over again. That's one way that a lot of people who are depressed self-sabotage and get stuck over and over and over again. They keep buying into the thoughts that they have, and they keep reconfirming them to be true. The next, your focus. So if that is your state, if that is your identity, your RAS, this is your reticular activating system. This filters out 99.999% of reality. It will focus on reconfirming the truth, your personal truth, that you are depressed, stuck, broken, that you can't change. And it's going to try to neglect, it's going to try to filter out information to allow you to change, especially when you're in fight or flight, because you're not in a healing state. You're not in a growth state. You're in a state where you want what's most familiar. You want instant relief. So your mind is going to be hyper focused on reconfirming those old beliefs about yourself that's causing you to be depressed and sad. So that's the next problem is our focus. Because if we have a calm nervous system, if we are in a relaxed state, we can start to promote growth. We can start to open our minds a little bit more and actually accept new possible changes. But if not, we're going to reject it and we'll be hyper focused on reconfirming the reality of, hey, I'm depressed, I'm broken, I'm stuck. Not because it's the full truth, but it's the story that's been playing out over and over and over again, and it wants to keep playing out over and over and over again. Next is we then reconfirm that identity. So again, identity is who you believe you are. So we go back into reconfirm identity, and then we're shaken up even more. And that feeling of like something is wrong. Of course, something feels wrong. It's because your nervous system is fight or flight, right? You don't feel like you're in a safe, stable state. And that's how the cycle repeats itself. And you can use a cycle for anything. Like I coach a lot of business people and entrepreneurs and CEOs. You could use this for the reason why you're stuck in your plateau in your business or in your finances. It all connects, which is really beautiful. So here's the fix. Here is the fix. The fix is, let's say the same person, I'm depressed, right? Here's what's going to happen. First and foremost, number one is that you need to change from fight or flight to neutral. What I mean by that is that we need to get your body, your nervous system out of this fight or flight, because if we don't do that, you're going to reject change at all cost. Your mind's going to keep running 1,000 miles per second. You're always going to feel like something's wrong, something's wrong, something's wrong. So the first thing before we promote any kind of change is we need to relax. We need to get to a neutral state. Now, one thing you should know is that all of the suffering in your mind is literally in your mind. And what I mean by that is that once you get yourself to an actual pure present moment where you're fully in the pure present moment, maybe you experience this on psychedelics, maybe you experience this on meditation or doing your biggest passion, joy, like you're playing with your kids at a park, you're biking down a hill really fast, you're snowboarding, skiing, and you're completely in that flow zone. That's what I mean. In that zone, you're pure presence, observing, curious, and experiencing life for how it is. You're not experiencing it for this illusion in your mind, and you don't have all these certain ideas and labels and focuses that you have going on. So, suffering is all in the mind. So, we need to bring you back to your body, get it out of your head. So, you ground yourself. So, you can do meditation, practice using your senses, your sight, your smell, your touch, your hearing. You can practice just being in the present moment, literally just going out in nature. Whatever you got to do, get yourself to a calm, neutral state. You'll know you're in a calm, neutral state when your breath is under control, you're breathing, and your mind is not so chaotic and it's more calm and neutral and relaxed. That's the first step. Then, once you're in that stage, now we can actually start to promote change. Now, one thing you should know is that this depressed feeling, so depression is your overall most dominant emotional state, right? You're constantly sad, upset, you're in that dark hole. That's your dominant emotional state. One thing that we should know though is that your emotions are never random. In order for you to experience that emotion in the first place, you must have an interpretation. You must be giving meaning or assigning a story to the situation happening in your life. You have to have an interpretation. So that's one thing you should know as a good savior is that this is never random. There's a system to this. So then now that you're in a relaxed, calm state, now we can start to dissect what are the beliefs that I do have that are causing me to see the situation as it is? What are the beliefs that I would have to have about myself to cause me to feel such a low state? What are the beliefs that I have to have about myself to be putting myself down like this, to be thinking so negatively about myself? Because here's what you should know is that your beliefs are not truth with a capital T. Your beliefs are only true to you personally. And what I mean by that is that what you believe to be true, your brain will support your belief systems unconditionally. So you could believe in the worst of the worst of the worst about yourself, and you'll experience that as it's real, but it's not actually reality. It's not actually real for everybody across the board, but it's your personal experience that you're having. And it all comes down to your belief systems because your belief systems influence everything. They're the root of it all. They influence your focus, the meaning you give, how you take action, your behaviors. It builds your identity, how you emotionally feel, how you think, how you see the world. Your beliefs build or create or influence all of that. So once you're in a neutral state, now you can start to dissect these negative limiting beliefs that are causing you to have this negative emotion, these negative thought patterns. And once you start to do this, once you start to change those beliefs and you realize those negative beliefs about yourself were never actually true, you can let them go and promote new beliefs, new changes. Beliefs are not solidified, they can change. So as you start to insert new beliefs, for example, going from I'm unworthy and undeserving to I am worthy and deserving, I am not good enough to I am good enough, I am broken to I am healed, or I'm always changing, or I am capable. Simply changing those beliefs. Because once you change those beliefs, it's going to cause a massive ripple effect of new thoughts, of new emotions, of new behaviors, new actions, and new identity. And over time, you will get new results in your life. This is where you need to come into the delusional phase. I call it the delusional phase because this is where reality currently reflects your past self. So your past old depressed self is what reality reflects. And you need to be delusional to that because your new results, your new internal shifts have not reflected outside of you yet. So this is where what you need to do is your job. And your job is understand that circumstances don't matter, state of being matters. And what that means is like, hey, I might be in this mess in my life right now. I might not be happy where I'm at. But one thing I do have control over is my actions, my attitude, and my focus. And if I can do that, then I can trust that the next steps, the changes will happen. So this is where you want to embody that new state. How would I think and feel if I believed in these new beliefs? Okay, Step into that new state. This is how you charge that identity. Again, identity is created through consistent thoughts and emotions held over time. So step into that new state. Think and feel as that person, keeping your nervous system relaxed and calm. And then as you're in that state, you take action from that state and you start to just focus on finding evidence on why that is true. You need to be your own best friend here. You need to pick yourself up. You need to focus on the good. You need to change the focus. You need to catch those negative thought patterns. And you need to do that every day. And if you do this every single day, you will change. Change is guaranteed. You will make a change one step at a time. You will rise above. But remember, in this period, what I was just talking about is going to be the fight of the ego because your mind, again, it wants familiarity, it wants certainty. So it's going to fight you here. The ego is always going to try to find evidence on why that's not true and why you're actually broken, why the change isn't happening. That's why you need to be delusional to that. You need to catch it in real time. You need to not identify with those negative thoughts, not buy back into that old program. That's one of the hardest parts. It's one of the biggest things that I help my one-on-one clients do. So again, you go from survival, you get up to, we'll say, neutrality. Then you can keep rising as you go. Now, how you expand your emotional state is by expanding your beliefs because beliefs, again, create the interpretation that you have around things, the meaning you assign to things, the stories that you make up, which then influence your emotional state of being. Right? It kind of sends you your emotions, you could say, or gives you your emotions, we could say. How it determines how you feel. So if you want to feel better in life, you need better beliefs for yourself that align with you. And then you need to adopt those new beliefs in real time and live those out and be those until it's actually stabilized, until you can actually keep it going. And this process that I just shared with you is exactly how you do that. So again, new belief, I am worthy. You focus on finding the evidence. Eventually, that'll be your new experience. Instead of going back to the old experience of I'm unworthy, ego protects that and it tries to find that in current reality to reconfirm it over and over again. That's what we got to cut out. All right, guys, that is the quick training for today. Leave in the comments below what hit home for you most, and also, are you still lost any? If so, drop that below in the comments, and I can always help you out after. If you like this training, make sure that you do like and subscribe. And also, if you need that transformational help, if you want to join a community of like-minded people chasing their dreams, their goals, who are high achievers, entrepreneurs, who want to level up themselves, to level up their lives, apply it for Beyond Identity Collective below. But thank you so much for being here, guys, and I'll see you on the next training.